So I want to make a video on the even questions. You guys are going to be responsible for the odd ones here. But the even questions, we are factoring, and because there is no number for the A, because the A value is 1, you're able to do the shortcut. So on all these, we'll be able to do the shortcut. So set up your answer format with the parentheses and with the H, right? You're able to do this because H times H is H squared. If you actually had a number right here like 6, you wouldn't be able to say H times H is 6H squared. So it's when you don't have a number that you're able to apply this shortcut. And then you simply think, what times what is 27? That if you add together is positive 12. So if you don't see that right off the bat, make a list. But I think it's pretty clear that positive 9 times positive 3, that's positive 27. And if you add it together, it really is 12. Let's move on to number 4. So number 4, we also set it up. And we think, what times what is negative 63? That if we add together is negative 2. If you do not see it, make a list. So start out with 1, like negative 1 times 63. Negative 2 doesn't work. Negative 3 times 21 is 63. Negative 4 doesn't work. And if you keep going, negative 7 times 9, that's 63, negative 63. So which pair of numbers combines together to give you the middle value, negative 2? These guys give you a positive 2 if you add them. So you have the right numbers, you just have the wrong signs because we want a negative 2, not a positive 2. So you have to just change the signs of those numbers. G plus 7, G minus 9 is the correct factored form. Number 6, set up your answer format. And you think, what times what is negative 60? That if you combine together is positive 4. So we're going to make a list. Negative 1 times 60, or negative 2 times 30, or negative 3 times 20, or negative 4 times 15, or negative 5 times 12, or negative 6 times 10, 7, 8, 9, nothing else works. That's all the possibilities of multiplying and getting the answer, negative 60. So which pair of numbers combines together to give you positive 4? Negative 2 and 30, that does not combine together to give you the middle value, positive 4. So if we look at this last combo, negative 6 plus 10, that will give us positive 4. So negative 6 plus 10 is the correct combo, and that's it, you're done. Number 8. Also, we are ready to set up the answer format. And then we simply think, what times what is negative 28? That if you combine together is negative 3. In other words, what times what is the C value, negative 28? That if you combine together gives you the B value, which is negative 3. If you're not sure, make a list. How could you get negative 28 as an answer? You could say negative 1 times 28. You could say negative 2 times 14. Negative 3 doesn't work. Negative 4 times 7. Negative 5 doesn't work. Negative 6 doesn't work. And we're already done with all the possible multiplication problems that give us negative 28. So when we start adding the numbers, like if I add negative 1 plus 28, I get 27. And as you can see, the middle value B is not 27, so that didn't work. The next one gives me 12. If I add negative 2 plus 14, that's 12, and the B value is not 12. If I add negative 4 and 7, I get 3. But the B value, as you can see, is negative 3, not positive 3. So I have the right numbers, I just have the wrong signs. So all I need to do is change the negative 4 to a positive 4 and change the 7 to a negative 7. So in the parentheses, you will have plus 4, n plus 4, and n minus 7. Let's move on to number 10. Number 10, setting up the answer format. And then thinking of the multiples of 30. How can I get 30? 1 times 30. 2 times 15, 3 times 10, 4 doesn't work, 5 times 6. Those are all the possible multiplication problems that give us 30. And then we think, which pair of numbers combines together to give us negative 11? Well, if I add 1 and 30, I get 31. That's not negative 11. If I add 2 plus 15, that's not negative 11. That's 17. If I add 3 and 10, I get 13, not negative 11. If I add 5 and 6, that gives me 11. Now, I don't want an 11, I want a negative 11. So I have the right numbers, I just have the wrong signs. So make sure you change those signs to a negative 5 times negative 6. That's the right combo we want. Negative 5 times negative 6 really is positive 30. And if you add negative 5 and negative 6, you really do get that b value, negative 11. So on the inside of the parentheses, we put z minus 5, z minus 6, and that's the correct factored form. Moving on to number 12. Set up the answer format, and then you simply think what times what is 24. That if you add together is negative 11. Now, if you see it right off the bat, you don't have to make a list. So I'm just going to make a list for all those that are struggling. 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. Those are all the possible ways. Now, if I add 1 and 24, I get 25, and the b value is not positive 25, so I scratch that out. If I add 2 and 12, I get 14, and the b value is not 14, so I scratch that out. If I add 3 and 8, that gives me a positive 11. Now, I want the 11, but I want it to be a negative. So I have the right numbers, I just have the wrong signs. So I'm going to make sure that I put a negative in front of the 3 and a negative in front of the 8. And that's the correct pair of numbers that we want to plug in. A minus 3 right here and a minus 8 right there. That's the answer for number 12. Moving on to 14. Again, we could set up the answer format. And we want to think of the multiples of negative 55. So just the first thing that comes to my mind is 5 times 11, right? But 5 times 11 is positive 55, so one of them has to be negative. So I need to determine which one has to be negative in order for my b value to be negative 6. So that would be a negative 11 times a positive 5. So plus 5 minus 11 is the correct numbers to plug into your factored form solution right there. Number 16, that one looks weird because it is not organized in standard form. You first have to rearrange it. What do I mean by that? Make sure that your constant is at the end, and make sure that this g squared with the degree of 2 is at the beginning. So we're going to take these guys and switch them. And after you have arranged it in standard form, now you could think about the answer format of factoring. And now you could think what times what is the c value of positive 48 that if I combine together is negative 16. You might want to make a list. Let's go for it. 1 times 48, 2 times 24, 3 times 16, I believe, 4 times 12, 5, 6 times 8 is 48. And those are all the possible multiplication problems that give you 48. Now you could use a calculator. So if you're not too good at multiplication, just use a calculator to make this list. So which pair of numbers combines together to give you negative 16? That would be 4 plus 12. That gives us 16, but we want it to be a negative 16, right? The b value is negative 16. So I have the right number, I just have the wrong signs. So let's change it to a minus 4 and a minus 12. Okay, so you change it to a minus 4 and a minus 12, and then you plug it in and you're done. This one looks tricky because it has 2 variables. But still, let's set up this shortcut and put an m right here and an m right there because m times m is m squared. So let's kind of ignore the v squared for a while. Now let's just think negative 56. What times what is negative 56 that if I combine together gives me a negative 1? What times what is negative 56 that if I combine together gives me a negative 1? That would be a negative 8 times a positive 7. However, if I look at negative 8 times positive 7, that's negative 56, but I need a v squared. So guess what else is going to be right here and here? A v, that's right. So put a v right there and a v right there, and that's the correct factored form. Now, if you're not too sure about it, you could always distribute m times m, that's m squared, m times 7v, that's plus 7mv, and then negative 8v times m, that's negative 8, put it in alphabetical order, mv, then negative 8 times positive 7, that's negative 56 v squared. And of course, the middle terms could be combined. If you have positive 7 and a negative 8, that'll be a negative 1 of those mv's. We have an m squared in front, we have a minus 56 v squared. And as you can see, this is just to double check that we had the original right there, and it is. So that's just to double check that we did the right factored form. So this is the answer right here, m minus 8v times m plus 7v. Number 20, this is very easy. all you have to remember is 3 words: factor, split, and solve. So you first want to factor. Now it's equal to 0. You need that equal to 0 to be able to split it with 0 product property. So make sure that it's equal to 0 first. That's like step 0, which it is equal to 0. Now we could factor and think what times what is negative 84 that if I add together is positive 5. So you might want to make a list. Now let's say you're just horrible at multiplication. Get a calculator and you already know that, okay, like negative 1 times 84, that works. If you go negative 2 times something, that's like getting a calculator and doing 84 divided by 2. And that does work, it's 42. So you could use a calculator. You want to try negative 3, I don't even know if it works, but on the calculator go 84 divided by 3 and it gives you 28. So this is how to fill it out with a calculator, right? Make your list with the calculator if you're not good at multiplication. How about negative 4 times something give you 84? You can, on the calculator, say 84 divided by 4 and it does give you 21. So you could put 4 times 21 and so on and so on. Negative 5 is not going to work. Negative 6, maybe, let's try it. 84 divided by 6 on a calculator is 14. So 6 times 14 is 84. Negative 7, I don't think it's going to work. Maybe it does. 84 divided by 7, it does work. It's 12. So 7 times 12 is 84. So you could use a calculator even if you don't know your multiplication tables. You don't know what 2 times 4 is. It's okay. You could use a calculator to figure it out. And then you look at all your possibilities there, all your different pairs of numbers, and identify which one combines together to give you the B value, which is positive 5. That would be a negative 7 and a positive 12. So put a minus 7 here and plus 12 right there. So we have factored. After that, you split it. P minus 7 equals 0. P plus 12 equals 0. And then you solve them. Plus 7, plus 7. The answer is P equals 7. And then over here, minus 12, minus 12. The answer is P equals negative 12. Those are your 2 answers for number 20. Number 22, set up the answer format once again. B right there, B right there. And let's think, what times what is negative 64 that if I combine together is negative 12? Again, with the calculator, it's easy. You just go negative 1 times 64. That's how to get negative 64. Then you go negative 2 times, with the calculator, you could do 64 divided by 2, and that'll be 32. You could try negative 3. So on the calculator, 64 divided by 3, or negative 3, it's 21.333, so it doesn't work. So negative 3 is not going to give you 64 when you multiply it by something. Negative 4, let's try 64 divided by 4. That'd be 16, so that does work. And if you're paying attention to the numbers as you create your list, this is the correct pair because that gives you 12 if you add them together. But the B value is negative 12. So you have the right numbers, you just have the wrong signs. So make sure you change it to a positive 4 and a negative 16 and plug that in. Positive 4, negative 16. Now it's still equal to 0. So now you're going to split them. You're going to set them each equal to 0. And what that does is creates your complicated factored equation into 2 simple equations. And then you solve for both of them. Minus 4, B equals negative 4. That's one answer. Plus 16, B equals positive 16. That's another answer. Number 24, you can't factor yet. The whole purpose of factoring is to be able to get something times something equals 0. And right here, it's not equal to 0. So let's first get rid of that negative 60 by adding 60 and adding 60. So my new quadratic form, quadratic trinomial equation that's set equal to 0 will be h squared minus 17h plus 60 equals 0. So right here at this point you could set up your factoring, the format for your answer, and think what times what is 60 that if I combine together is negative 17. Let me make a list. So I came up with this list of numbers right here with the calculator, right? I mean, if you don't know your multiplication tables, use a calculator. So if you know your C value is 60, 1 times 60, obviously. But if you want to know 2 times what gives you 60, use a calculator. 60 divided by 2 is 30, so 2 times 30. 60 divided by 3 is 20, so 3 times 20. 60 divided by 4 is 15 with the calculator, so 4 times 15. 60 divided by 5 is 12. So 5 times 12, 60 divided by 6 is 10. Those are all the possibilities of getting two numbers multiplied together to get 60, that if you combine together, but we're looking for the pair of numbers that combines together to give us negative 17. So if I start adding 1 plus 60, that's 61. So that's not going to cut it. 2 plus 30 is 32. That's not going to cut it. We want negative 17. So 3 plus 20, that's 23. That's not going to work. 4 times 15, that's 19. That's not going to work. 5 times 12 is 17. But the thing is, we want a negative 17, not a positive 17. So we're just going to change the signs, and we'll have the right pair of numbers, a negative 5 times a negative 12. This is the pair of numbers that we want, and that's what we're going to plug in right here and right there. So negative 5, h minus 5, h minus 12 is the correct factored form. Maybe I shouldn't draw these arrows because I need to show my work to solve the equation. So now that I know my factored form, I could now split it and solve. The zero product property allows us to split it, and we're going to have h minus 5 equals 0 and h minus 12 equals 0. So when you solve both, you're going to get h equals positive 5 and h equals positive 12. Those are your two answers when you solve each of those. Let me jump to the last one. Almost the last one. We still need to do 28 after this. So once again, you want to think of three words: factor, split, and solve. But in order to be able to split it using the zero product property, you need 0, right? So you need the equation to be equal to 0, not 72. So you're going to first subtract 72 and subtract 72. So your new equation will be z squared minus 14z minus 72. And now once you have this standard form quadratic trinomial equal to 0, now you can think about the shortcut and put a z right there and a z right there and simply think what times what is negative 72, that if you add together is negative 14. Again, for those that don't know their multiplication tables, how could we do this with the calculator? You're simply going to go negative 1 times 72. That's easy. But then you go negative 2 times something. In order to figure that out on a calculator, go 72 divided by 2, and you'll get 36. Or you could try negative 3. So how about 72 divided by 3? It's 24. So negative 3 times 24. Negative 4 times something. So 72, let's see if it works, divided by 4, that's 18. So negative 4 times 18 is also negative 72. Now notice, guys, I'm not doing this off the top of my head. I'm doing this with a calculator, right? So negative 5, if I do it with the calculator, it's not going to work. Negative 6, that's negative 6 times 12. Negative 7 is not going to work. Negative 8 times 9, that will work. I don't need a calculator for those. So that's about it. Now all we need to do is find the pair of numbers that combines together to give me a negative 14. Negative 4 and 18. Why can't it be this guy? Because that would give you 6. Not negative 14, right? Okay, so it depends. I mean, if you could pick all of them if you want and just test them each, and you'll see that the only one that works is negative 4 plus 18. But we don't want a positive 14, we want a negative 14. So we have the right numbers, we just have the wrong signs. So I'm going to change the negative 4 to a positive 4. I'm going to change that 18 to a negative 18. So when I plug it into my factored format, it's going to be z plus 4 and z minus 18. And now that it's in factored form, and now that it's equal to 0, I could apply the zero product property. Something times something equals 0. You could take this something, set it equal to 0, take this something, set it equal to 0. So what do? We factored, we're going to split it, and then we're going to solve them, right? So the plus 4, I get rid of it by going minus 4, z equals negative 4, that's one answer, plus 18, z equals 18 is another answer. Yes, it's a lot of work, but we need to show our work. Number 28.
You could write that as a solution set, right?
Yeah, you could write it as a solution set. Thank you for clarifying that. Number 28, we cannot factor yet. We need to get everything to one side and set it equal to 0. Subtract 18a, cancels. Subtract 18a. Now let's rewrite this whole thing in standard form. You can't really combine any of these three terms because they're all different terms. So let's write it in standard form. I have an a squared, let's write that first. I have a minus 18a, let's write that second, and I have a constant plus 80 at the very end. Now it's in standard form. It is still equal to 0, so I'm going to factor using the shortcut, put an a right here and an a right there. It's still equal to 0. What times what is 80 that if I combine together is negative 18?
8 times 10.
8 times 10. Now, that'll give you a positive 18. So you know it's not 8 times 10, it's negative 8 times negative 10, right? Negative 8 times negative 10 is positive 80. And if you combine them together, it is negative 18. So negative 8 times negative 10, that is positive 80. And if you combine negative 8 and negative 10 together, it does give you the negative 18 for the B. So we know we factored it correctly. If you're stuck, use a calculator, make a list. Anyway, now let's split them. A minus 8 equals 0, and then a minus 10 equals 0. And now let's solve them. I guess at this point, we just know it's going to be the opposite value. A equals 8, A equals 10. Those are your two answers for 28. Last one, guys. Let's get it equal to 0 first by adding 52. Adding 52. None of these three terms could be combined, so let's just rewrite it in standard form. R squared first, positive 17R second, constant 52 at the very end. Set it equal to 0 because negative 52 plus 52 is 0. Now we're going to factor. R still equal to 0. What times what is 52 that if I combine together is 17? Anybody? If we don't see it, let's start making a list. 1 times 52, 2 times 27, no, 26, sorry. What was that? 3 times something? With the calculator, I want to go 52 divided by 3 so I could find out 3 times what is 52. So on the calculator, 52 divided by 3 is 17.3, so it doesn't work. So 3 didn't work. 4 times 13, I believe, is 52. And that's the correct pair of numbers that we want. So positive 4, positive 13. Now we're going to split them, and then we're going to solve them. So R equals 4. No, negative 4, I'm sorry. And over here, minus 13, 0 take away 13 is negative 13. So the two answers are negative 4 and negative 13. The answers are on the back of the worksheet. This video shows all the even ones. You guys could do all the odd, actually do all of them. But if you need help, check out the videos.